Hello, everyone, and here we have a new story. Before we get to that, I want to ask you to subscribe, like, and be sure to write comments in order to participate in the development of the community. Write how to improve my community, current topics in the stories you are interested in, and much more. I read and listen to all the comments. People write me stories by mail from different countries. There are problems with translation. I apologize for this. I will work on it and try to fix these errors. I want to thank everyone for their support and the people who wrote to me by mail, broadcast news stories. New videos on my channel are published once every 2 days at 7 p.m. Don't forget to put a bell in order not to miss new videos. And now let's go. Hello everyone. I do not know what is going on in this world. I'm writing to this community to share my story. Perhaps someone has encountered a similar situation and will write me a comment. Please help me. I don't even know where to start. I can't describe my feelings to you. When I met my wife, we were both 19 years old. We had a lot in common. After the first date, our relationship spun. We wrote to each other every day that we loved each other. We shared our most intimate secrets with each other. My wife's father died when we were in our final year of university. I supported my wife and was by her side all the time. My wife's father had stomach cancer. I spent sleepless nights with her in the hospital. I didn't want to leave my wife alone. After we deal with this, our bond became stronger. My wife told me that if it wasn't for me, she doesn't even know how she would have survived this moment. 2 years later, I proposed to my wife. We just graduated from university. I knew my life would get better because I married the girl of my dreams. Our families got along very well with each other. I got a job with a good salary. My best friend, we'll call him Jack. I've known this man for many years since high school. How do I describe my relationship with Jack? I considered him my brother. He was also married and left with his wife for another city. Jack's wife got a very good job at a law firm. Time passed and Jack's wife died in a car accident. This broke Jack and he returned back to his hometown. I was trying to support Jack, but he wasn't the same anymore. He believed that no one could understand what kind of pain he was experiencing at the moment. So I asked my wife to talk to him, because my wife also lost a loved one. Maybe Jack could understand her better. Yes, now I understand that it was my huge mistake. We visited Jack every day. My wife spent hours at Jack's house even without me. They often watched movies together and didn't invite me. I felt uneasy, but Jack was getting much better. It's important to say that Jack and my wife never liked each other, because my wife always thought he was a jerk. Before Jack married his late wife, he often changed relationships. Even when they were married, Jack cheated on her. That's why my wife had a special dislike for him. My wife asked me how I could be friends with Jack. He has low morals, because my wife thought Jack was a jerk. This made me even more inattentive to their communication. When I mentioned that my wife and Jack became very close to the point that she started inviting him on our dates together, I began to notice that my wife was acting suspiciously. Now I know that these are the features of classic scammers. The wife did not let the phone out of her hands. She became more and more distant from me. We had very little sex. She began to come home late and so on. It was very suspicious. One day, she was writing a message. I asked who she was talking to. My wife told me it was one of her friends. When I started asking what were they talking about, my wife got very angry and called me possessive. I decided to talk to Jack and tell him that their friendship had already gone too far. But Jack assured me that everything was fine and I didn't have to worry about anything. He even blamed me and said I didn't trust my best friend. It was all very strange and I couldn't get it out of my head. I felt like a horned deer. One day my wife said she was going to visit her relatives for the weekend because she needed a break from me. Allegedly, I drove my wife crazy because I accused her and was paranoid. I called her sister anyway to find out if my wife was really going to them. She confirmed my wife's words, but she said my wife hadn't arrived yet. I want you to notice this moment, because my wife left home at lunch. It takes 4 hours to get to her relative's house. I called at 10 p.m. At that moment, my intuition was telling me to go to my best friend's house. I was 100% sure that he had my wife. My wife's car was parked a couple of feet from my friend's house. It was already clear what was going on. It was unpleasant for me to admit that I was a deer. I was so hurt to tears. I couldn't believe it. After a while, I decided to check if this was really happening to me. I knew the back door was open, so I headed for it. I quietly entered the house and heard my wife moaning. I began to tremble and quietly went to the door of his bedroom. The door was ajar. I saw that my wife was leaning over and holding onto the bedside table. Jack was standing behind her. I will never be able to get this image out of my head. To be honest, I literally cry when I think about it. I open the door and they both froze. They look at me with bulging eyes and are silent. I don't know how I could resist beating Jack up. I just silently got out and got into the car. I heard someone running towards me. I turned my head and saw my wife running and shouting at me to stop, that she can explain everything to me. I couldn't talk to my wife. I will say more, I couldn't look at my wife. So I just left as soon as possible. I was sitting behind the wheel and tears were streaming down my cheeks. Jack and my wife called me nonstop. I asked a college friend to take me in so that Jack and my wife wouldn't find me in our house. I can't sleep. I can't eat. I just can't think of anything else. I called my office and told them what was going on. Boss was very kind and gave me a vacation. My wife Jack and both our families called me every day. I informed my family that I was fine. I haven't answered my phone since because I was in a lot of pain. I'm trying to be strong, but I'm not very good at it. I just can't understand how people who love you can do that. I do not know how to handle this situation. When I look back, I remember the happiest moments of my marriage. But when I start to think that she cheated on me, how Jack and my wife made me question my sanity, I'm starting to get furious. The more I thought about it, the angrier I got. I will never forget how angry my wife was. When I asked where she was staying late, I will never forget the disgust with which Jack looked at me when I spoke to him about friendship with my wife. The betrayal was quite serious. The cruelest thing was that it happened to my best friend. They played me like a fool. I do not know how people can lie like that. I remember one evening my wife came in late, about 2 days before I found out about it. My wife told me how much she loves me and how excited she was when she was driving home and thinking about me. Now I can say with certainty that she came home from Jack because she wasn't wearing panties. My wife had sex with both of us. Damn it. I kissed my wife that day. This situation makes me feel weak. How could I let them trample me? The more I think about it, I want to go to Jack and punch him in the face. But I can't, because there's no justice for me in our justice system. They can torture me mentally, but if I take revenge on them, they'll put me in jail right away. I have consulted with my lawyer. The lawyer advised me not to do anything stupid. I'm not only going to jail, but I will also jeopardize my chances in the divorce process. The lawyer advised to consult a doctor, but I don't want. My wife sent me an email. She was spewing nonsense out of her mouth. My wife apologized and sent me Bible verses about forgiveness. This angered me even more. I started going to work again because I wanted to do something to distract myself. I don't drink as much as I did in the beginning. One day at work, I received a letter from my wife. I didn't want to read this, but I was wondering what she wrote. She said that she goes to individual consultations, that it helped her a lot. She discovered the main problem she had. Her biggest problem is low self-esteem. She explained this by the discrepancy between our attractiveness. It made her feel very shy. That deep down she wanted to feel wanted by someone other than me. According to my wife, her sister was always prettier than her. This contributed to her low self-esteem. My wife said she knew I loved her and made her feel beautiful, but she wanted this feeling to be given to her by another man. The wife apologized again and said that this was not an excuse. It's just that the wife is looking for a way to make sure it never happens again. If, of course, I decided to give my wife another chance. Then she asked if we could try to have a joint consultation. I still haven't answered this question. I ignored it and started the divorce process. We had to split the finances among ourselves. Unfortunately, I can't take most of it for myself without my wife's consent, even though I earned a lot more than she did. Most likely, I will have to split the money 50-50. I started collecting all the divorce papers. After that, the shit show started. The day she was served with a subpoena, my wife showed up at my apartment. We just stood there and looked at each other. All the emotions I experienced came back with renewed vigor. I stood there barely restraining myself from crying. My wife rushed to me to hug me. I definitely pushed her away. It made my wife hysterical. The wife started screaming loudly. She asked why I was giving up on us so easily. At that moment, I just realized that I wanted to leave. I was afraid to say a word so that I wouldn't regret it later. I'm trying to get to my car. She was pulling my legs. As soon as I got into the car, my wife threw herself on my hood. I asked what she wanted from me. The wife replied that she just wanted to discuss everything, that we can't end our marriage without clarifying anything. I became softer because she made scenes in front of people. We went back to my apartment. I just sat on the sofa and listened to what she was saying to me. My wife said she would do everything to save our marriage, that she doesn't love Jack, that she was very sorry. She suggested a trial breakup. Allegedly, this kind of marriage. In this trial, she said that I could date anyone. She wanted me to postpone the divorce and give her a chance. Perhaps she will be able to restore our marriage. My wife offered me a lot of crazy things, such as an open marriage in my favor. She showed me a lot of crazy stories where an open marriage helped restore marriage. She even offered to move to another state or country. When my wife finished speaking, we just sat there in silence. Then I couldn't stand it and asked her, why did she cheat on me with him? Why did she come back to me after I caught her? At that moment, she began to cry very hard. She said through tears that she felt very guilty. She was so deeply involved in the novel that she couldn't stop, that she felt the same way during intercourse. The consultation helped my wife realize that sooner or later she would have cheated on me. If not with Jack, then with someone else. I asked if she loved Jack. My wife replied that she hadn't even spoken to Jack since I caught them. She hasn't spoken to him and doesn't know where he is. She said she only loves me and is ready to do anything I ask. Then I asked her a question. Did she cheat on me with someone else besides Jack? She swore by her late father that she didn't do it. Then I asked, who else knew about you and Jack? The wife hesitated with the answer. Then she confessed that her sister also knew about it. My wife's sister begged her to stop it. I asked why she didn't stay with Jack. Because she thought she was doing the right thing. Not because she really loves me. My wife replied that she loved me. She made a terrible choice and wants to fix everything. We sat and talked for a long time. My wife cried a lot. Then I asked her if there was anything else she wanted to tell me. Maybe there's something else she's been keeping a secret. My wife started crying again and immediately asked me not to be angry. At that moment, I was very nervous. She was crying and couldn't tell me anything. I couldn't stand it and said, damn it, say it already. I find out that my wife is pregnant, but she had an abortion because she wasn't sure who the father was. She thought that if the baby was from Jack, then we did not reconcile in any way, so she felt she had to do it. I was shocked by what I heard. At that moment, my wife started begging me even harder. I just asked her to leave. She begged me and wanted to stay at my house. She said it over and over again, that we still need to talk. All my wife's pleas just infuriated me, especially after what I heard. I asked when she realized she was pregnant. She replied that in a few weeks. And then it dawned on me. Wait, in the email you wrote that you had sex with Jack about a week before I found out. Is that a lie? My wife nodded. Damn it. She just nodded. She said she didn't want to hurt me with the details. She admitted that the sex lasted about a month. My wife tried to comfort me, but I pushed her away. I asked my wife to leave and never come back. My wife was trying to tell me something, but I yelled at her a lot. I wanted her to leave as soon as possible. Before she left, she asked if we could talk again a little later. I refused and said I'd found a job in another state. After the divorce, I'll move right away. I've already warned my boss. After what she heard, she got hysterical and she started begging me again. I couldn't stand it and told her to leave. Otherwise, I would have called the police. She left reluctantly. I was just lying on the couch and thinking, where did I go wrong? How did my marriage get to such a state in such a short period of time? After our conversation, I was more than confident in my decision to divorce my wife. I ignored all my wife's attempts to contact me again. However, a couple of days ago, my mother called me and she said that my wife is in the hospital. Most likely, she was hospitalized from a drug overdose. It was like the worst nightmare. I still can't figure out what to do. I visited my wife in the hospital. She seemed to be all right, but she was admitted to a psychiatric hospital. I still can't figure out why she did it. I'm still in a lot of pain because I still love her. At the moment, I'm just happy that she's okay. I wasn't thinking about getting a divorce. Considering what is happening at the moment, friends tell me what to do in this situation. I really need your advice. Maybe I'm missing some more details, but then the story will be unbearably long. Before we move on to the advice of the author of the channel, I want you to help the guy and write some suggestions what to do about it. Channel author's advice. Of course, I can say that this is a very difficult situation. It is clear that the girl realized her mistakes. The girl even decided to commit suicide, which says a lot. But in my practice, girls who cheated on men, they did it over and over again. Of course, the final decision will be yours. Perhaps your wife will no longer allow such behavior. But if I were you, I would think carefully. I wouldn't forgive cheating on my wife. I do not recommend forgiving a woman's infidelity to anyone in this life. I understand that it is very difficult to survive this, but you will also understand that everything is possible in this life. The human brain tends to forget negative emotions. You just need time. I want to wish patience and strength to this guy. What do you think, friends? What can you say about this? If you have watched to the end, I want to say thank you very much. I love you all. Thank you for joining me on this exciting journey of love, betrayal, and redemption. I appreciate your support and encourage you to subscribe, like, and share this story. Your participation and feedback are invaluable for shaping our content and promoting mutual understanding and community growth. Until we meet again.